individuals obviously accessing some of the services out there. Fortunately, we have solutions in this panel too, and some advice, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. Amazing organizations working to serve our veterans and the needs that are out there. So on our Veterans Day today, we're acknowledging the service of those living, both current service members and veterans as well. We should also be grateful, of course, to all the men and women who have served. I've said that all day long. I'm going to continue to say that too. So let me introduce the panel too. And I know their names are on there, but just give me a wave, and also folks, you maybe are not paying close attention to the names part. Crystal McKinney, welcome to the panel today. Crystal is a national director of the Senior Community Services Employment Program for Easter Sales. This is a program participants are veterans, military spouses, which have been supported through a decades-long partnership with the U.S. Department of Labor. So it provides work-based job training for Americans 55 and older in a variety of community service activities at nonprofit and public facilities. I hope everybody's still me and still on the call. It looks like I might have had a connectivity issue, so if you're out there and can hear me.
Give us a moment. We're having a little bit of a connectivity issue. Hang on 1 second, please.
My apologies if you are a little concerned that you might not be able to hear me. Hello, is everybody out there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about this. This is clearly a issue of my internet going on that I am trying to successfully bring back. So we're in the middle. I'm just going to do this. Let me go ahead and
Okay, we're going to give it a couple more minutes because we just resent a Zoom. Otherwise, I will take over. Hang on.
I certainly hope all of you can see me now. And I just want to apologize right out of the gate for all these. Forgive me here. Okay, are we all here?
Yes.
Can I scream yet? Can I scream? Okay,
Hey.
I apologize. I hope this holds up here. So Deanna, jump on in. Crystal, my apologies that your introduction was interrupted. Crystal, I'm going to get through all of the introductions in a rather quickly manner so that we could get right to it. Crystal, I mentioned, is with Easter Seals, and I'm going to let everyone kind of give your own introduction of your organization since I'm getting frozen. I'll let her go. Rochelle Crump is the president and founder of the National Women Veterans United, followed by Karen Hernandez, executive director of Chicago Veterans at the end of 2017, became the first executive director, also a U.S. Army veteran, so Karen Hernandez. And Laura Franz, I hope I'm saying that correctly, licensed clinical social worker, has been with Veterans Path to Hope for 6 years. So let me go ahead and toss it to all of you because I want to make sure that I'm not freezing up and you have a chance to talk about the important work each of your organizations is doing. So if you don't mind, maybe for a minute or two, just kind of sharing what you're doing and why that's so important to our audience out there. Crystal, you want to get us started?
Hi, Rochelle Crump, National Women Veterans United, Army veterans and Vietnam era, and certainly it's a pleasure to be here. So good to see you, Stacy and Diana. Wonderful job all the time that you guys are doing, and especially, you know, with the media focusing on veterans always. And I know that's your passion and in your heart. So our organization is 16 years old. We actually created it in 2005, and we're various branches of service, all the branches of services, wartime, peacetime. We have officers and non-enlisted and enlisted as our membership. And also we have an association with non-veteran, you know, status, but their families have been in the military and such. And what we created in the beginning was surrounding women not being recognized, not being able to navigate through the complicated systems of the VA when they return home, and those that are actually been deployed and who come back from combat, readjustment into, you know, being civilian, those who've been away for 20 and 30 years and come back and everything is totally different to them. In addition, you know, we picked up the Gold Star family also, Simone Robinson, who passed in March of 2009. As a result of injuries sustained in Afghanistan. And we named our facility after that. We have the only military women veterans center in the state of Illinois, and we're one of few across the nation that actually has our own facility, focusing on the needs of military women veterans, and a lot of, you know, making sure that we are engaging with women who have disabilities, those who are homeless or at risk, helping them to navigate through the systems and not just sending them there with the telephone number or the address, making sure that they are provided all of the services that they need. Peer support is so important, that we're, you know, gathering together. We're talking about our stories, and they love to tell those stories about when they were in the military, as well as, you know, we've engaged with the Operation Her Story, with the honor flight that went, took all of the women to Washington, D.C. last week, and well, in October the 6th. And it seems like yesterday because we talk about it so much. But, you know, all those things that we need to do, we've been doing a lot of health initiatives. Our facility has health equipment, fitness equipment. We have artifacts there. It's like a little museum when you come. You've got to come and visit it to actually see, you know, what the women are doing and how proud they are of their service. You know, I come from the era of 1973 when I got out of the military, and pretty much I went straight to the VA, start working there, stayed there for 23 years, then went to a social service agency, worked there with homeless veterans, you know, then on to the city of Chicago as the director of Veterans Affairs, you know, doing ceremonial events, you know, under the mayor and doing those types of things that really brought a lot of veterans together. And still at that time, there were very few women veterans that basically were, you know, coming out and being a part of that. Over the years, when I went to the state as the assistant director, more women started getting involved in it at that time. That was in 2003. And then, you know, we started doing other things in the community with services. We had a big event at Soldier Field one year that drew like 5,000 veterans. It was called a supermarket of veterans benefits. And that was huge. More people start paying attention to the state. You know, and my good friend Jim Bosser from the 11th Ward, when he was the alderman, we worked very good together, you know, bringing veterans together. And we're seeing that more and more. And, you know, the plight of women veterans now is to not be left out of history. And that's one of our major focuses, to make sure that our contributions, our stories, and, you know, our backgrounds of being veterans, not being left out of history is so important for us. We're part of that creation of the Women Veterans Illinois license plate, as well as, you know, making sure that we're having a conversation with the VA. We hear bad things about the VA. We know that the VA has taken on a lot of things. You know, some of those things belong to the community, and we need to, you know, embrace that part of it as well. You know, we make sure that when the women come to us, you know, we have things to offer for them. We don't just, you know, say things. If they're homeless and they don't have a place to go, we put them in a hotel until we can figure it out. If they need clothing, we give them either gift cards to go and get clothes, or when we have our stand down, we usually have clothes and things like that. You'd be surprised at the things that women need that they're not asking for or they don't know how to get access to. This is a huge undertaking for all of the agencies and those that have a not-for-profit organization that are basically working with veterans and the needs of women, you know, because women are so resourceful. You know, we have some that will sleep in their car rather than go to the shelter, you know, and we keep telling them that's not an option to do, you know, so please reach out for help. We want to make sure that they get that help, and just to let them know that they're not out here alone. You know, we partnered just not long ago with a women veterans organization, Sister Soldiers Network in Indianapolis. And what we did was we had a statewide conference. Can you hear me now? You know, that was the title of it, because we have so much to say and we want to make sure that everyone can hear us. You know, we don't get away from those bad things that go on, like the military sexual trauma, you know, just thinking about Vanessa again, you know, today is Veterans Day. You know, I think about those homeless veterans, you know, they're giving away food, they're giving away discounted things. You know, I would like to make sure that, you know, those are actually being provided for those who are homeless as well. You know, that they're not just for us who basically look like we're okay. You know what I'm saying? That they can get the help that they need today too, because tomorrow we're going to be veterans also. We were veterans yesterday. Today is just a significant day to bring awareness to all the things that need veterans and also to honor them. You know, so thank you all so much for, you know, all you're doing to make sure that happens today. Thank you.
And President Crump, you brought up so many different issues that we're going to touch upon once everyone has a chance to give us a little bit about their organizations with. Who would like to go next? And then follow each other up after we do these introductions, then we'll hit the issues that you are definitely addressing already.
Sure, I'll go next. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, Stacy and ABC7. Kudos, and you know, let's just give it up for technology, because through it all we're managing, right? So we have to just make it work and definitely laugh and continue on. So thank you so much for the opportunity today. Thank you, Rochelle, for the wonderful overview of all the great things that are happening. I'm sure you saw me nod my head throughout it all, because you know, you were just head on with so much. And, you know, I'm so glad that we have the opportunity today to continue on and to share. So a little bit about the organization that I'm from. A lot of you may have heard of Easter Seals as a nonprofit serving individuals with disabilities. However, many are not aware for over 3 decades that we have serviced veterans as well as their families since after World War II. So we've been around for quite a long time, and at least for the past 3 decades, serving veterans and their families. We want everyone to know and to continue to be aware that the services, just as Rochelle has mentioned are out there. And definitely as it relates to Veterans Day, and, you know, I can share for myself as well. I too am an Army veteran. I served in Operation Desert Storm back in 1990 when I was 2. but definitely with the services and with the supports, they're there. And there also is a big need for the services that are available to be known across the city, the state, as well as the country. So I know we'll have an opportunity to share more and to kind of deep dive into what we're doing. So as far as the introductions, I'll pass it over to Laura.
Okay, thank you. Laura Franz with Veterans Path to Hope. And our agency was founded 25 years ago by Alan Belcher, a Vietnam veteran. And he was very troubled seeing people that he had served with ending up homeless over and over again. So he opened a transitional living shelter in McHenry County that serves 20 veterans to this day. And it's their individual efficiency apartments. And so we can serve male, female, and transgender there, which makes us a little bit different than a lot of the other places. In the years ensuing, you know, after that, we have basically watched the needs, you know, kind of what are the needs that have emerged as we're watching and interacting with the veteran population and their families. And by just observing and talking, we've added 7 additional programs, a couple of additional housing programs for homeless veterans to help them avoid homelessness or get out of homelessness. We have an employment program that helps homeless veterans get employment. We have a drop-in resource center that has a very big food pantry. Food insecurity is a daily thing. Somebody had mentioned that, and that is for real, daily thing. We have a Veterans Community Action Team that will deliver a full house full of furniture, 2 weeks worth of food, pots and pans, you know, all of the household things, and to families that we have put back into housing again. And I'll tell you something, it's the food that makes them cry. They love the furniture, they love the pictures on the walls, but when we fill their pantry, they cry. The food thing is very real. We also added an outdoor program for fishing trips, and the person that leads that program, who's a retired Navy veteran, he will pick small groups of veterans to go to resorts in Wisconsin or Michigan for a weekend. And some of those trips are life-saving for the veterans that go on them. They come out of those trips connected, feeling a sense of belonging and relief because they got to tell their story to people who get it. So wonderful program. We also have a grant with AmeriCorps in Arizona State University. That's our legacy corps for military and veteran families. That grant helps support caregivers of veterans. So we really, again, you know, we kind of take a look at what are the barriers that the people who come to us are facing, and what can we do not only through our 8 programs, but through all of our partnerships with so many other organizations and people. What can we do to help remove that barrier and really return that sense of hope? Nothing's worse than when you don't have hope, and nothing's worse when a veteran, like the most resourceful people are veterans, right? But when they hit a barrier that they can't get over, under, or around, that's hopelessness. And really our men throughout all of our staff, and most of our staff are veterans or one-offs. So there's a real passion within our organization. People go above and beyond to figure out how do we, you know, get that barrier removed so that this veteran and family can move forward again. We're a little different in that we categorize ourselves as we really are a social service agency, you know, a human service organization, as opposed to a civic organization. You know, the function is a little bit different, but again, we partner really closely with all of the organizations that are there who have something to help a veteran in need. All right, so I'm going to volley now to Karen.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director of Chicago Veterans. And I'm also, I think as Stacy mentioned, I'm also currently still serving in the Illinois National Guard. I was just promoted to major, and I'm currently a commander for a medical unit that's
Right.
sent to deploy next year, actually. So I'm still, living some of the struggles that we talk about, or even that Rochelle talked about, or Crystal talked about, and even Laura. So for Chicago Veterans, we are a veteran organization that was founded by other post 9/11 veterans that realized they were having a difficult transition. And so we started just sort of as a group at DePaul University. And then that group slowly grew into an organization because we saw that the same struggles that, were happening and that we identified were just continuously going on throughout other veterans transition. So, and not just post 9/11 veterans, but veterans that served before us. So it's been a constant issue. We've identified some of our key areas. And so currently we do programming around employment. We do employment preparation. We help veterans get ready for resumes. Like in the military, we don't do, interviews anymore. You do like boards. And so it's a transition, and a lot of terminology changes, and being able to say, like, what do you do in the military, and how do those skills transfer over to the civilian sector? So we do some of that. We do social community building. So we bring veterans together through different programming. We do sports programming. We'll have a volleyball or soccer team that we'll mentor through, and we'll all just kind of play together, and it comes back to team building, the camaraderie. We'll attend events. Sometimes maybe the Chicago Bulls or Chicago White Sox will invite us to a game. And so we've had the opportunity, we've been blessed to be able to bless others through that. So we've had opportunities where we've taken 350 veterans to a basketball game. And it's been an incredible opportunity to network. And a lot of that is just to continue to build that sense of community, the sense of family that we have when we serve. And then we also have an academy, an online academy. We've identified 10 key areas that we think, are key to a transition for a veteran to begin with. And so some of that includes how to obtain a DD-214, how to enroll to the VA care, how to access some of these programs like Rochelle's and Laura's and Crystal's programs. So we talk about the veteran systems navigation. So there's so many community programs, and what we try to do is make it easy for veterans to be able to access those programs, to learn about how to qualify, and to learn of what exists out there. Because there are so many, we try to help with putting out the word and sharing some of these amazing organizations and what they do. So that's just a quick overview of what we do. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk more about it, but I'm just excited to be here. I'm thankful, I'm happy to see other female veterans. It's always great to be in a room with a bunch of female veterans because, we are well represented. And I think, many times when, especially Veterans Day, right? Like people expect, or you show up somewhere and they're like, oh, is your husband serving? Or, thank your husband for service. But a lot of us have worn the uniform and we've done the same sacrifices that they're making. So just like Rochelle and, her group, Trailblazers. And so I think it's amazing to be here in a room with other veterans. I'll go back to Stacy. I'm sure that there's other things we can talk about. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you. And I've been bounced off a few times, so I'm a little concerned with my connectivity. Let me just say this. You have brought up so many issues that we do need to talk about. Employment, housing, connecting, the camaraderie that's there, food security. I'd like to start off with, these are no ranking order by any means because they're all critical. But why don't we start, a lot of you are dealing with employment. So why don't we talk about that to get us started? I know, Crystal, that is a key part of what you're doing too, making sure that the unemployed.
Sure, I can go ahead and
So
respond.
please jump. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead and respond. Yeah, just as you've mentioned, Stacy, employment is a huge barrier for veterans across Chicagoland. However, just as you mentioned also, and just as my wonderful panelist mentioned as well, there are other obstacles or bumps in the roads that we often need to address prior to becoming employable, such as housing, education, additional resources, retooling, just as many have already mentioned, moving and transitioning from the military and understanding the workplace and the workforce as it is right now. So all of these things are relevant and all of them are very important. But what we encourage and what we tell all of our job seekers all the time is that employers are out there, and definitely now more than ever, lots of opportunities, both virtual as well as in person. But how we work with our job seekers and to manage them and to support them as they navigate through this journey of becoming employed. We work with them a lot to ensure that their toolboxes are equipped with the necessary skills to get to where they need to be. So if there is a barrier or a bump in the road as it relates to acquiring housing, we connect with organizations throughout the Chicagoland area to support them. And that's one of the glory of these types of platforms, and also the glory of a lot of us as partners on this meeting today, is that we are often in communications and aware of supports and services. And we can definitely continue on with that brotherhood and that sisterhood that many of us have learned in the military to share resources and to help one another. So just as I've mentioned, employability is very important. Overcoming those obstacles or those bumps in the roads to become employed is equally important. And we have to navigate through acquiring those resources and those community supports to get to where we want to be and to get our job seekers where they want to be. Just as we might have issues with childcare or housing or financial awareness and literacy or education, getting more credentials and getting more licensures to become employable. Just as we might have issues with technology, we're training our job seekers on how to show up and where to be. And these are just some of the issues that come around, but definitely I would say the glory of collaboration and connecting to those community supports is the recipe for those positive outcomes with our job seekers.
Employment, would anyone else like to jump on that? Because I know when you talk about the housing, the food insecurity being such real issues right now, I mean, these are all interconnected, all tied together, right? So when you have a veteran who's there, who's dealing with all these interconnected issues, tackling that, just tackling that. So for the veterans who are out there who are watching this, I mean, to provide some hope, to provide some direction, I think this could be a very challenging place to be if you're facing all those issues. So how do you get started? Where do you go? Talk about the connections, just all of that, because let's just take it one piece at a time, if you will. Go right ahead. I know all of you have answers for that one.
So one thing I would recommend, and I tell all the veterans that just recently are transitioning, is the power of networking. The power of networking is just, it's incredible. And while there are so many employers looking to hire veterans, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get in front of those employers. And the only way to do that is through networking. There's so many resources, so many programs that provide opportunities for that. There's bunker labs, there are events through Roll Call Chicagoland, there's events through, and I'm just naming organizations, but if you go online and you look through these programs, they're gonna offer you opportunities to get in front of these employers, to see what they're looking for, to even just meet one-on-one and say, hey, you know what, like I just transitioned and I'm looking to get into this space. And I think one of the things that I've seen is, so we do a lot of work with employers, right? Like employees need help too, but employers need help as far as learning how to read a veteran's resume, learning how to, like understand what it is that my job. So maybe I was a platoon leader, but like, what does that mean, right? Like, I'm 22 years old. You can't tell me that you were leading, a big group of people. But in reality, I mean, I'm in charge of millions of dollars of equipment and 55 soldiers, you know what I mean? Like, and it's understanding what these roles mean. So I think, having an opportunity to be in front of that employer, having employers be engaged, and understanding and learning, like, what does it mean? And then being able to translate, the military, like, side and the military language back into the civilian side. I know that's it brings a different type of perspective, but only because some of our veterans come with so many leadership skills and so many skills that are just, that you can't learn in a classroom. You're going to learn them through leading. You're going to learn them through managing groups of people, and those skills, are transferable. They can come over to the civilian workforce, but those are very difficult to translate over into a resume, because what you're looking for, most employers are looking for is, well, show me what position. Were you a manager? Were you a director? What were you doing? Really, they were managers and directors, but in the military. So I think some of it is the employers taking part in it. And then the other part is veterans, having that opportunity, taking the opportunities to come out. Like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Well, you need to come out to this event, and you need to meet people, and you need to shake hands, and you need to sell yourself, and you need to just, put a face to the name, and they're going to remember you, because, we're people that they remember, right? Like, veterans we're there, we're in your face. And so I think that would be my recommendation for veterans looking for a new opportunity for career.
Yeah, and if I could just
Jump
add
on
to
in,
what
because I feel,
if I could
Yes,
just add
go
to
for
what
it, please.
Karen said too, and if we could, continue this discussion with our fellow veterans as far as networking, don't be afraid to connect with people, and share that you're on the market. Because many employers, and at least in my 25 years of doing this stuff, we work with employers that will hire for the attitude and train for the skill. And one thing that our veterans definitely have, as Karen mentioned, is skill sets, organizational skills. We know how to show up. We know how to kick butt and really result-oriented people. We can definitely make that part happen. But also the other thing I was going to add is, in every community, in every area, there are employment centers and job centers. They are now called American Job Centers. And don't be intimidated to work with your American Job Centers, because each one has a representative that is designated to work with veterans, as well as your local VAs. They have employment representatives that are there to work with you and connect you. And then lastly, of course, the partner nonprofit organizations that at your local unemployment office or your Department of Employment Security, or American Job Center, whatever they're called now. They've just recently changed their name. They can connect you with local nonprofits in your area that can support you towards your journey with becoming employed. So again, that networking and letting people, places, and things know that I'm on the market, I'm looking for employment, and then connecting with those providers. That's definitely a recipe for success.
I just love the fact how, Laura, let me just say this. You know what, Crystal, I love the fact that you hit on that. It's so important for a company to be like, that person, we could train that person. That person's trainable, they're on point, they're gonna be here on time. And that is such a critical, that is such an important thing for veterans to hear, for anyone to hear really, because it's like you kind of doubt yourself or you stop yourself before just going for it. And you're saying, just go for it. They'll figure it out if you're the right person. Laura, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to add that from where our agency sits is we're really intended to be, the bucket catching the raindrops, the veterans that would fall through the cracks because they're not eligible for VA benefits, or they don't know that they are eligible for VA benefits. Often, many of them have had trauma during childhood, then went into the service and experienced a level of trauma in the service as well. And then when they came out, they may not have family support at all. So it's not all of our vets, but many of our vets fall into this. They have a lot of barriers. And so when we're talking about employment, it goes back to, I think what you said in the beginning is like you're unpacking, and you have to start unpacking with where that person is. Like, you know, there's a number of times we've had women come to us from other states. They are veterans escaping domestic violence. And so, you know, we want to talk to them about employment, but we're going to be talking first about basic safety. Where can we help them move to where they have a sense of personal safety? They're taught how to set boundaries with the person that may be trying to pursue them, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like employment is on this continuum where there's certain things that have to be taken care of, even more than the resume building. You know, there's, you know, basic skills they need to learn, the housing situation, food insecurity, childcare. So we unpack the box in the order that the veteran wants it to be unpacked. And that is how I think we reach our greatest success. It's a journey together.
Yes, it is. And
Laura,
thank you
that is
so
so
much.
great points.
Yes, and thank you so much for saying that, because it is so real, you know,
Yes.
especially with the deterrence, basically, that, you know, get in that way. You know, and the same thing that Crystal was talking about also, and Karen also, you know, alluding to the fact that, you know, they have a lot of different issues that they have to address before they can do 9 to 5, before they can just walk in the door and say, here's my resume, I'm ready, I can work, I can do this. Some, it's not everybody, but it is a good population of them, because those who basically have gone to school, who are getting degrees, who basically can still do work, they're not having a problem pretty much with getting, you know, employment. This population that's not employed pretty much are those who are struggling in areas that we've been talking about now. And a lot of that comes from, number one is they have a lot of doctor's appointments also, and they have to go to those doctor's appointments basically to keep well. A lot of them, you know, are in groups. A lot of them pretty much still have bad episodes. They have good days, they have bad days. You know, you're looking at all of that. I always, you know, recommend that they go to the Illinois state to apply for employment, the city, the county, where there's veterans preference and priority. I work with the African American employment plan when I was with the Department of Children and Family Services. And, you know, it was one thing about coming in with your resume and everything, but you still had to face those things. You know, we had an employee that came from another state. He came to Chicago. He had nowhere to live. His coworker found him sleeping in the parking garage of DCFS, in the inside one. She knows I do veterans. She brought him to me. We were able to find him an apartment. I got about 4 different organizations together to pay the security rent, all of that, because we could not wait to go through the different bureaucracy of, okay, this person needs to fill out this, they need to come back here, they need to, you know, all that is just not an option when there are things that we can do collectively as organizations to straighten it out right away. And that's what we did. But when we talk about employment, you know, they're not going to stay on the job if in fact their needs are not met with the mental health issues and the services that they really need, the hope that you talked about. And that, you know, is so important, because like you mentioned, some of them don't have that family support. They're all new to their families. They're just coming back from, you know, a different kind of environment, and they have to come back, and then they leave home because of the fact they'll go and sleep in the street because the family is not understanding of what is going on. So it's a lot to just saying that they are ready for employment. And I'm so glad that these ladies understand that as well.
You know, let's talk about that, because I think the way Laura just mentioned that continuing part of that. Yeah. So first is, do we even have food on the table, right? I mean, that whole issue. So talk about those services. And I know, Laura, yours, obviously Veterans Paths to Hope has that, but I love to hear from all of you, a veteran who is just dealing with the basics right now. I need a roof, I need food, I need someone to childcare issues like that. You're absolutely right. Feels like, and then I'm going to worry about my job. But if we don't have food, that's a major issue. So how do you start off with those basics? I feel like the employment was an excellent how-to book. Like you had great advice from all of you. So now the question being basics of survival when you're faced with these challenges.
I think I think sometimes we think of as veterans, we're looking for veteran organizations, but I think we forget that there are also social service organizations that'll serve you as a human, right? Like you're also a human being. You're part of the community. You're part of wherever you live. So there are also networks there that currently exist. So I think sometimes we get a little narrow-minded and we think, well, let me find this veteran, or this veteran organization doesn't exist, but there are probably programs to already address these issues. So I think that to begin with, I would say that the first thing is asking for help, and I think that that's the biggest and the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, I find that veterans can get the most help when they can connect to someone that relates to them and that relates to their experience. So if I meet a fellow veteran sister that has served, we share a little bit, we connect because of our military service, but then we start opening up about what it is that we're experiencing. And it makes that connection a little bit easier. So I think that's why the power of the peer support network is crucial, and it's important for veterans to meet other veterans, because one, I think it's like, hey, I've been where you are, and this is what I did to help myself, and then it's then I can connect and say, you know what, you have experienced some of what I've experienced, so but this is what my experience looks like, and although ours is not linear and it doesn't look the same, it's a little bit easier to connect and to ask for help, because there are so many programs, yes, but I think it's hard to be like, hey, you know what, and maybe it's humility, or maybe it's embarrassment, or maybe it's knowing
Right.
that, like, as a veteran, pride, yeah, so maybe knowing, like, I've been self-sufficient, or I was trained to do so many things, and like, how am I going to ask for help? But knowing that you're not the first and you're not going to be the last person, so you do it because I did it and it helped me, and then look at where I'm at and look at where you can be. But I think sometimes we look at things like, oh, let me look for a veteran organization, but there's probably already a program that exists for this person to help them with those, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like food, roof over your head, your basic needs, like you need those, because then, you can function and you can worry about everything else after that.
One thing too that I've learned is that when we talk about transition, most people think of that as being like when you came out of the service, whether it was 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, retired, or whatever. And what I learned by accident, honestly, was that the transition can happen at any point. I answer, we all pick up the phones here, and I picked up the phone one day and a Vietnam veteran was calling in, and he said to me, he was frantic, and he said, you know what? I have lived a good life. I had a good experience in the military. I came home, I've had a great career, but I went and I saw the wall, and I put my hands on the names of my brothers that didn't make it back. And now I can't sleep. They're in the back seat of my car when I'm driving. They're talking to me. I can't get away, and I don't know what to do. So here he was, I'm guessing, 70, 72 years old, and his transition started that day. Like he had been so busy his whole life, it started that day. So it's just a point, like, to be open-minded to, it can happen at any point. And the response is still the same. What do you need? What can we do? How do we give you that hand up?
Exactly.
I think the mental health issues that you're bringing up too, we haven't really touched upon that, but just the mental health, the trauma, the resources that are available out there to help veterans who've gone through that. And, just yesterday I was with a group of vets, and they're using their GI Bill to become scuba instructors. And I'm like, who knew? Like, they're like, yes, not all of us want to be in a college classroom or in, sitting there at a desk job. Like, some of us are active, and this is a career path, and it's a GI approved program, vocational school. And I just, and the important part of that is how the water for some of them became like their saving grace. And there's so many different ways that someone could heal, right? And just making sure that those resources are being available, being willing to connect, or say, like Karen, I feel like connecting you know, if you met another fellow sister that you're like, I got to connect you, like not leaving them in an isolated position.
And sometimes they get tired of telling the story. You know, let's face it, you know, they get tired of filling out applications and saying, you know, what's going on with them. It is embarrassing, and they do take that at heart, you know, and that's why I'm happy that, you know, in our organization, we have, like I said earlier, you know, we have women of every branch of service there, including the Coast Guard, you know, and I always say including the Coast Guard because sometimes it's rare to get them out and get them in, but she's really excited about being, you know, a part of the organization and such. But when they come to our organization, and Karen mentioned it too, that connection from veteran to veteran pretty much is really important to them. So they can let their guards down now. They don't have to feel shamed or anything like that. They fit right into the group. They're ready to share what's going on with them. Each of us have a story to tell, you know, so they feel right at home. And that's a good thing because now they're going to really tell us what's going on. And we get a chance then to act, put it in action. You know what I'm saying? Because if anything, you know, like I said earlier, you know, whatever it is, we can do it. And if we can't do it, then we know the phone calls that we can make to get it done. And it's not bureaucracy. It's just plain common sense of what we do. And that's what sometimes these big agencies lack. I'll just put it just like that. It's just plain common sense practices. You know, if somebody's lights are out today, we should be willing to pay for it and get the lights on, if not today, much sooner than it is for you to have to go through this whole program to tell them everything. And now they want you to go into this class and that class to learn how to manage your money and things like that, you know. And so the money that we have is just for that, to pick it up where we can. If they don't have a light, then we're going to try to get candles and things like that so that they can, or they're going to the hotel until the light comes on. It's just that simple, you know, and we have to have the heart to do that, because put yourself in that position. That's always the first thing when they say put your mask on so that you can help somebody else. And so it's not that complicated. We make it complicated when we do involve a lot of the bureaucracy of it. Small organizations, and I'm glad that we're in a small organization where we can make common sense decisions to do this today and not have them on hold, because it means so much to them. We talk about the hope, they get hope after that. Now they're going to let us work with other organizations to get them more help for long-term services. So, you know, it's really important that we do have those connections to the other organizations. And I'm proud of what we do and why we do it and who we do it for. So, yeah.
You know, we are getting to like where we have about 10 minutes left or so. I just want to make sure that each of you has 2-3 minutes of your hard sell, must take away sort of points that you want to get across to the community that's watching.
Well, I would jump in to say, I do a lot of moving around and presenting to different groups and talking to different groups and talking about our services. And everyone always asks me if I'm doing that for money. And the answer is always. I mean, it's always about money. You can't provide services if you don't have money. But the bigger reason that I do this and that we do this as an organization is we're trying to help chip away at that 22 a day. 22 a day. And we tell everyone, if you know of a veteran or a veteran family member that's struggling, please reach out, you know, info@vphope.org, our website, www.veteranspathtohope.org, you know, our phone, reach out in some way, because I've heard a couple of people talk about peer support. It is all about peer support, and our veterans will reach out and try to do whatever they can to reach that person to help them get out of whatever it is that they're struggling with. So to me, it's more talk to as many people as you can about what's out there, help give that sense of hope that if somebody's struggling, there's something out there for them to be able to help.
Laura, thank you.
Yeah, I put someone speaking. Okay, so I would, just kind of co-sign with what Laura said, making sure that people know where we are is very important. We're located at 8620 South Pulaski Road. We can be reached by email, just Google National Women Veterans United. Leave a message. I answer those calls all night long. I honestly do. And, what's important too is that they understand that we are here for them. We're not just a talking organization. We can help them in many ways. So if they are struggling, we would certainly like to engage with them and then, connect them to longer term services. But we want to be able to put that fire out right then and there. And it's important that also we remember that there is an older population out here also that actually needs help and who also wind up out of a house or a home to live in. We've experienced that too. Not to mention those who are hoarders basically and are basically under duress basically by landlords and things like that of cleaning their apartments and that's a huge thing too with veterans. And then also to be able to make sure that we connect them to those things, but we will pay for it because we don't have the staff to do that, but we will do that. And we have just a little bit of money. We're pledging, we have small fundraisers. Of course, the pandemic, got in the way of all of that. We paid over $30,000 in rent and could not use our facility, so we had a lot of things going on, but God is good. We put that hope in ourselves as we do to our other people that we are veterans that we're actually serving. We're not just an organization, we're a service organization in which we are helping. And I want to connect with the other ladies too. So I'm so glad that you all, got us all together as well, because we've not worked together. And this, if nothing else came out of this, I think that's one of the most important things to me that happened today, that I'll be able to connect with these ladies to help. And I know I had one more point, but it got past me. So I'll move on. So in respect of time.
And if that point comes back up to you, President Crump, you could go ahead and jump on in too. But one of the things that Ms. Oda McKinney, that you were talking about that we didn't thoroughly address is just the issue of disabled vets too. And I know that's within your realm of the world. Talk about that and any other parting thoughts that you'd want to add on to that as well. But, that is a huge part, the disability angle to all of this, and being able to help those veterans as well.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. I just wanted to add those couple of stats. Prior to the pandemic, the U.S. Department of Labor noted over 600,000 veterans were unemployed. 1/3 of those are people with disabilities. So that's a very important factor. Anything, as we've mentioned before, we spoke today about the gamut of barriers or bumps in the road that our job seekers often have. So this is just kind of putting the numbers to just where we are and just what we are up against and how we work together to overcome obstacles and minimize those bumps in the roads for job seekers, in the communities that we serve. I spoke on it a little bit, but I just wanted to kind of quickly go back. In addition to employment, and I talk a lot about employment and skills building, it is that point that we do a lot of assessments, and we do those employability assessments to see where there are bumps in the road. And some of them might be with mental wellness or, what we spoke about earlier today with homelessness and some of those other things. So we do work really closely with our job seekers to get them there. And a lot of that with our veterans are those invisible backpacks that we often need to unpack and unload. And that is a journey. So I just wanted to mention that as we, initially spoke on that earlier. But with Easter Seals and within our organization and with servicing veterans, we know the leadership skills that vets bring to the workforce. This is our charge and this is our passion and what we want to do. We want to continue through our veterans employment programs to work with the veterans as well as their families to get them to where they need to be. So that's definitely our charge. And, wherever we are, as I use that analogy, as far as being that navigation to get our vets across the city and across the state where they need to be, that's definitely what we work towards. Thank you.
Yeah, just a few other points too, and I just want to make sure that people know about the Veterans Assistance Commission, that they have funds also. Let's not leave that out. In fact, they have a lot of funds that is not being used right now. And so veterans can go to them also to get assistance. They used to have a one-time service and now they're doing more than one time. So they definitely need to, research that. Also, there's a push for dental care. More veterans would be smiling today if in fact the VA had dental care. Let's just say that. So there is some legislation out here. Help us push it. How can you have comprehensive health care and not have oral care as well? So veterans need to be able to eat healthy, and they can't do that when they do not have teeth to do so from various reasons. Medication is one of them. Others is, because it weakens the teeth. So, a lot of veterans are taking medication also with women who are having children. That also, has some bearing on their teeth. So we want to push for that. And that's really huge right now. So we hope, and then, we want to thank the Lieutenant Governor Stratton too, because she has taken a liking to women veterans. And basically, she's got the Women Girls Council, and that's a part of it. So kudos to her and Senator Collins that basically is helping with that process also. And then we want to make sure too that Operation Her Story is known about, because that's where women are coming together also. Vietnam, Korean, and World War II women basically had their turn going on this honor flight. We want to make sure that the 911, Desert Storm, Persian Gulf, Iraq, and Afghanistan is getting ready, because we need them all to be together to make sure that that happens.
All of you, thank you so much for all your insight into these organizations and how to go about the process, which I think even as an outsider could be incredibly intimidating at times. And, the whole message is sometimes we make it complicated. Sometimes it's a matter of just picking up the phone, getting the right person on the other line who's willing to help you. So any other parting thoughts before we close our program today? I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to really share what you wanted to share today.
Yeah, I just have one more thing to add, Stacy. And, the power of social media and the fact that we're on this virtual platform now, as we talk about resources, there are lots of resources and just basic groups, working groups, on social media. Veteran to Veteran is one where there are brothers and sisters, and, and just some of the instances and the examples that were shared today, housing, navigating through the system, getting disability insurance or rights for legal services. Someone in there can ask a question or a topic, and their brother or their sister, just as simple, not dealing with a bureaucracy of an organization, they can provide that help and that assistance. So, the power of social media is there to help the brothers and sisters of the military as well.
Right, absolutely. I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for sharing all the important work that your organizations are doing, for reaching out, letting veterans know the different steps that can be taken, whether it be a simple phone call or the networking point, or just really reaching out at any point. So veterans, we want to thank you for your service, and we appreciate each and one of you has put the uniform on. And I also want to apologize for the technical issues that I've been having on my end, but that didn't prevent your voices from going through to all our panelists. So Crystal, Rochelle, Laura, and of course, Karen too. I think she was off the call at the moment, but I just want to thank you all very, very much. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey. But you know what? Let's do one last thing. Ladies, hand salute.
That's right.
Thank you.
And with that is the appropriate way to end it, President Crump. Thank you all. Thank you for being part of our program too.